What's going on, guys? I'm Jaye the Black. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. I want to talk about Joe Budden, man. Joe Budden has reappeared, and he's talking. He's talking about Charlamagne the God, okay? Now, I'm going to put a link to this article from Hot New Hip Hop in the description box. And in the article, it has a video or one of Joe Budden's recent podcasts where at the 36, 37 mark, he starts talking about Charlamagne the God and how he agrees with Kwame Brown and his assessment that, you shouldn't accept Charlamagne's apology because Charlamagne is passive aggressive. And Joe Budden feels that Charlamagne the God sabotaged him or has tried to sabotage him. Now, y'all know I've made some videos in regards to Charlamagne the God, and Kwame Brown did not accept the apology of Charlamagne the God, basically putting out his family's past, as the things that went on in his family with certain family members, bringing it to the public eye in order to make a joke about how dangerous and how crazy Kwame Brown is, even though he don't even know Kwame Brown, and try to make it seem like because his family members may have been a certain way, that he's going to be that way. So Kwame Brown responds, and he went in, said some things about Charlamagne in his past, and Charlamagne sent cease and desist. Because, of course, you can bring up people's family background, but you cannot nobody can bring up your background. And I just found that to be very interesting. But I'm going to read this excerpt from the podcast where Joe Budden is speaking about Charlamagne the God, right? He says, if you are a mental health guy, you don't know that effing bombarding this man's whole family on the radio would be a mental health thing. Tell me you didn't. He said, if you big on mental health, be big on it at all times. I am no longer talking to Charlamagne. I'm talking about as a whole. I just see a lot of it. Because for those of you who don't follow Charlamagne on Instagram, he's trying to be more of a mental health guy. But what he did not help at all. And even in his apology, he spoke about the people that were hurt by what he said, that they were open, that there was wounds that had been reopened due to him putting this information out here. Because when you talk about the things that Kwame Brown's father may or may not have done, brother may or may not have done, what you're doing is you're bringing up trauma that those people had to endure just so what you can get a chuckle, just so you can make Kwame Brown look bad, because that's what it looks like. You can tell a joke without digging up information and putting it on social media. That is why nobody's buying your apology, especially after sending a cease and desist. And Joe Budden is a guy who feels that Charlamagne is very passive aggressive. He's a guy who does things in a sneaky manner or behind the scenes manner, because Joe Budden brought up the fact that there was a timeline where he felt like Charlamagne was trying to sabotage him, sabotage his process or his progress as an independent content creator who's not reliant on corporations. Charlamagne is beholden to corporations. He's comfortable being in a corporate environment, even though he will get on social media and he will talk about black businesses. He will talk about how blacks, should come together and support each other, support these businesses, but he's part of the corporate machine. That's why he apologized, right? That's why he has these lawyers sending out cease and desist whenever somebody gets a bit closer to the truth. Now, I don't know myself if Charlamagne has tried to sabotage Joe, but Joe feels in his heart of hearts, and this is something I even heard before Joe Budden even mentioned it, that he feels like Charlamagne the God has intentionally tried to passive aggressively diss his efforts in being independent. And Charlamagne in his own way has. because again, Charlamagne is comfortable working in a setting where he's beholden to corporations. And when you have somebody like a Charlamagne the God, who honestly, I see him as somebody who has been in this environment of, being in this entertainment, this entertainment like mud, so to speak, and has gotten himself dirty. He knows how to get on certain sides, and he understands that it's easier when you are beholden to these companies and not really doing things on your own, taking risks, right? But what you say on social media and trying to be the mental health guy, you're trying to be about building black businesses. Whenever you see, melanated men seeking to do what you promote on social media, you shoot it down. You basically say, that's not going to work, Joe. You do efforts to sort of make fun of it in your own way, to not respect it. And that's why I think Joe Budden has been holding this in, because now he sees the fact that, you and others have gone at him, this recent situation. And I think that Joe Budden is finally letting it out, because Joe was more diplomatic. I can honestly say I haven't watched a lot of his podcasts. Here and there I watch podcast clips, but I don't know if he's spoken on Charlamagne that much. But he's been holding this in definitely for quite some time, and he's been waiting for an opportunity to get at Charlamagne for who he feels has been trying to sabotage his efforts to be an independent black-owned media company that does not have to rely on corporations, that does not have to rely on other people to get him where he needs to go, to pay him, right? He doesn't want to be signed to that. He doesn't want to have to deal with the fact that he is in a situation where he says the wrong thing, he can be fired. None of us want to be in that situation. I know I wouldn't. I know I would not want to be in a situation where if I say something, if I don't use the right pronouns, that I can be fired, that I can be canceled. If Joe Budden was signed to a corporation, a company, he probably would have been fired, would have been canceled. But because he has his own platform, it wasn't easy for them to cancel him. He's still doing his podcast. And he's also taken what Kwame Brown has done and said, you know what? Kwame Brown is right. I can agree with him. Whether y'all like Joe Budden or not, you can have your opinions about Joe Budden. But the fact that he's acknowledging that he feels like Charlamagne could be sneaky, that Charlamagne could be a bit of a liar and can be very manipulative, passive aggressive, not really truly respect what he feels like is a company that is ran by black men, that is being pushed in direction of being self-owned and operated, funded by the fans, not by a corporation. He feels like his efforts have been sort of kicked by Charlamagne and people like him, because Charlamagne isn't the only one. You got a lot of these comfortable Negroes, so to speak, who are signed to corporations. They have sponsorship deals, but they claim that they are for their people. They have their fist up in the air, right? And again, Charlamagne, he's the mental health guy, but he ruined the mental health of people who had closed wounds due to things that may or may not have happened years ago. And he reopened them just so he can get a chuckle, just so he can make one man look bad. Because that's what he did. Make no mistake about it. You don't go and dig up research just so, just for the sake of digging up research. He didn't know anything. He never knew Kwame Brown personally. He knew his relatives, but he never knew him personally. And he did that, as Joe Budden would say, in a passive aggressive way to make him look bad. That's not good. That's not good at all. And honestly, when you look at what we have going on in our society with these celebrities, they should be called out. They should be held accountable for the fact that they are ruining people's mental health. And we don't need to ignore that any longer. Whatever you think of Joe Budden, it is what it is. But for him to call out Charlamagne the God is worth listening to.